right, good morning, everyone. My name is Garrett. I'm the art director for CreatiVets. Today I'll be doing some face demoing, so whether you're watching on Twitch or YouTube or Facebook, I'm glad to have you here. If you want to message me any questions to talk about, feel free to message them in the chat. This is what we'll be doing roughly today. I'll just work through a ceramic sculpture over the course of the week from around 12 to 2 p.m. I'll be doing just the steps to working with ceramic sculpture. So this is what I do on my own in my own personal practice. Here we are in my new studio, just moved into a new apartment. So yeah, we'll be trying to make something like this today, working on the general pieces of it, and then throughout the week we'll be doing different steps. If there's anything you all want me to do, I've got all my art supplies here in my studio. Please message us on Facebook or Instagram, or send us an email or message my Instagram, and then I'll try to do a little demo on that. But yeah, let's just get started. I'll put some jams on, and then we'll start making some stuff. Make sure my cameras are all set. I got a black and white screen.
Are we there?
Let's see. Checking. All right, there we go. We're back. All right. All right, so I will be using a stoneware clay today. I'll talk a little bit about that. So this is the clay I'll be working with. So ceramic clay, this would be something that I have to cook in a kiln. So a kiln is like a big oven that you'll be able to fire the pieces in. What I'll be doing is a solid sculpture, so I'll actually hollow out my pieces later. With anything you make in ceramics, you need to make sure that it's hollow. Let's see, just got a first message. All right, CreatiVets, looking forward to your live stream. Right on. Yeah, so anything you make in clay, in ceramic clay, you'll need to make sure that it's hollow. And the reason that is because when you fire something in a kiln, if there's any moisture or if there's any, let's see. Hold up. Hold up. Make sure I'm up and running before I start sculpting. Got 4 people watching. Ooh. Right on, Dan. Ready to be enlightened. I like that. All right. Why isn't my second camera updating? One second. All right, there we go. Get this situated on my piece. We're back at it. Okay. Make this window smaller. Dan, I hope you're still watching. All right, here we go. So, starting over a little bit. Got my camera working. I'm the guinea pig for our new system, so I'll be figuring out all the things that work and don't work today. All right. So we're gonna do a ceramic bust. A bust is head, neck, and shoulders. Just a little bit about clay. The clay that I'll be working with is a ceramic-based clay. And there's a couple different stages of clay. There's the plastic state, which is where it's at right now. So as you can see, I'll use this camera. It's very soft, it's very pliable. That's what we call plastic. As we continue to work with the clay, it'll keep losing its moisture because this is a clay that, again, will be cooked in a kiln. It'll lose its moisture over time. It'll dry up and harden. Once it's lost all of its moisture, we'll fire it in a kiln and then make it into something like, I don't have any bisque things, like this, where it's a solid stone. It'll last the time. All right. I think I've got my whole crew on. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Yeah, so let's get started. So I'll start. I'm going to work solid. I'm going to work on this little spinny thing so I can kind of show you as I'm working. But I'm just going to start by making like a shape of the portrait. So again, working for that like neck area, the shoulder area. Won't be doing anything full figure today. If any of you know my work previously, I like to work with figures in general, but I have made like 6 foot, 7 foot tall figures out of clay. So now again, like I said, you have to, any ceramic piece that you make has to be hollow. Otherwise, any moisture is trapped inside or any air trapped inside, it'll make the piece blow up. So we don't want that. So I'm going to build this solid, and then probably tomorrow or the day after, I'll do a hollowing demo. And when I say hollowing, that just means, let me get this a little closer. Boom, there we go. Hollowing, meaning I'll be taking all the clay from the inside out of it. Sweet. All right. So, I don't usually work with photos. Sometimes I do. I usually just like to sculpt and see where the clay takes me. So we'll see where that happens today. I'll try to channel my inner Bob Ross. So right now at this state, because it's all the same moisture, it's all plastic clay, I can kind of just smear it together. Over the next couple of days, I'll be having to do additional methods to attach things called slipping and scoring. But right now, with where it's at, I can just kind of squish it together, smear it in, and then make it look whole. So again, I'm just trying to make that bust shape. Waiting for it to load in. Just general bust shape. So just a little bit about why we're doing this. Obviously, the world is in a little bit of a standstill right now with the coronavirus, but it's really important for us at CreatiVets that no matter what's going on, we want to be available to veterans. Stopping veteran suicide is extremely important to our mission and what we do. So we wanted to provide some online demos for just to watch, to engage in, to still have art be part of your daily routine, even if you are stuck at home right now, like I am. I live in Chicago, if I haven't said that already. So if you're visiting the stream from another state, from another city, please let us know. Love to see where we're reaching today. But it's really important that no matter what's going on, we're available to our veterans, our past participants, because the world may pause and stop, but the veteran suicide doesn't, and we want to stop it. That's the whole point of why we're doing this. So over the next couple weeks, we'll be doing some live demos of different art practices, having some different visiting artists. I should be able to come in every day and do something different. So right now, I'm just going to show what I do. If any of you, again, have any questions on my practice or why I make the art that I make, and maybe I'll grab some pieces later when I'm taking a break to show you and kind of talk through them about what I make art about. But something else that I'll be implementing is just things that you can do at home without having to go out and buy new art supplies. There's a lot of things in your household that you may or may not think can be used for art making, but it can be. So I'll show you some of that stuff over the next couple weeks. So hopefully we can do some online classes together. Start getting hair in my face in a second. I don't know if you can hear my music. I was going to play music off my laptop, but then it started making all my streaming apps a little laggy. Didn't want that to happen, so I've got my stereo on in the other room. Might turn it up a little later. Yeah, never done any streaming before. Can thank Richard Casper for getting my my wonderful face on streaming now. And this is the kind of the boring part of sculpting. I'm just kind of getting the shape done, the general shape. That's something that whenever I do a face demo, is what I call it when I demonstrate how to make a sculpture of a person. Just start with the the general shapes, right? Imagine if it was a little blurry, and then you kind of add the details to it. I think I have my first question from Dan. The question was, how did you get involved with CreatiVets? How did I get involved with CreatiVets? I studied ceramic sculpture and art education at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, where Richard Casper studied, who's our co-founder and executive director. And when Richard decided to start CreatiVets and start a program at SAC, which we've partnered with for the past several years, I was a sophomore at the time. So when he came in for his first class, I saw the class listed for summer classes, and I actually thought, I was like, man, that'd be pretty cool to take a class with some veterans and make some art. But I didn't, because I figured it was meant strictly for veterans, and I was right. So that next year, the TA that they had for the first class didn't return for the second class, so I was an undergrad, which usually undergrads aren't TAs, but I worked for the ceramics department, and my bosses, shout out to Anne-Marie and Bowie, really appreciated the work that I did. So they nominated me for the position. I went for my interview with Richard Casper and just hit it off, and I started as a TA. So the first class I TA'd for was in 2016, I believe, or 2017. I think it was 2016. Maybe it was before that. I don't even remember. But so I started as a TA, and just kind of assisted with the program. I was young at the time, so it was very intimidating for me, but Richard Casper is a great mentor and a great teacher, and kind of gave me the confidence because he knew that I was studying art. He knew that I knew technically how to work with clay, so that's kind of what I was brought on for initially, just kind of help out with the material instruction. And then the next year I was a TA again, which was my last year at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. And then after that, Richard said, you want to come back again? You want to keep working on stuff? And I said, yeah. So I came back as I believe it was a private contractor is what SAC had me listed as. And then just like slowly things just started picking up with like opportunities. I could work with CreatiVets, and I started curating shows for them. Had never done that, kind of learned all that with Richard, curated a show for the National Veterans Art Museum, and then as CreatiVets participants started making more and more art, we had more things to show. So I came back as a TA year after year, and then Richard said, well, do you want to be our art director after a couple years? And the need was there, and like I said, we had shown across the country, and I was curating those and packing and shipping art because I really believed what the CreatiVets mission was all about empowering veterans with art and music and just creative energy. So yeah, that's how I got involved with CreatiVets. Dan, thanks for the wonderful question. Started as a TA, worked my way up, and just really believed in what CreatiVets was all about, and wanted to do my part. Like I said, I studied, just adjusting my camera here. I studied art education. I'm actually certified to teach K through 12 in the state of Illinois. I currently teach some wonderful K through 8th graders in addition to working with CreatiVets. Yeah. Okay, we're almost done with the shape of the bust. I might do a little platform. Not sure yet. I'm gonna kind of pop this guy off if I can, and just kind of reshape I really like when busts have these like solid flat sides. So I'm gonna try to do that. Sweet. So now we're getting there. All right. So now is the time that I'll probably start sculpting stuff Maybe I'll try to sculpt Dan. No response from Dan. All right, so I've got the general bust shape. Now, just a little, do I have anything in here? Oh yeah, I've got poly walnuts. I was gonna show, there's poly walnuts over there. It's hard to see them from The Sopranos, my favorite show of all time. But I sculpt very dramatically or exaggerated. So a lot of my features, let me get this right. This is one of the pieces that I made at SAC. They're very exaggerated, right? They're not anatomically correct. Sometimes they can be, but most of the time I get pretty exaggerated with it. So yeah, so face down, we got our bust, we got our platform. Again, this is solid. We'll hollow this out in the next couple days. The reason I like building solid is because you can really press into the clay, and you can also take clay away as you're working, so it doesn't have to be super fragile. Like this thing, pretty heavy right now, but it can hold its shape. And when I sculpt, I like to take parts away, and sometimes pieces get a little frustrated. You want to rip parts off. You can do that if it's a solid chunk of clay. Let's start. I usually start in the center of the face, so I start with making a nose. Now the shape that I make for a nose is a teardrop-ish shape. Boom, right there. Teardrop, long teardrop. And I'll just press it right in the middle of the face. Now, again, if you're a ceramicist or have worked with ceramics in general before, you'll be familiar with the phrase slip and score. I am not slipping and scoring for this. For those of you that don't know, slipping and scoring is when you take a tool like a needle tool, for example, and you score. So you make some hatch marks on the clay. You go back and forth. And then you would take slip or water. I've got a cup of water right here. And you just add that to it before you added a piece, right? So the scoring acts as if this is the clay surface, let me get this, I can't, if this is the clay surface, the knuckles, and you score it, you open up all the fingers. And then when you push the two pieces together, you've kind of squished them together and gripped them together, just like that, right? Oh, here we go, another message. I'll respond on that in a second. So for slipping and scoring, like I said, you kind of take the clay, which is very smooth right now, then you open it up and then squish it together. Now, when you add slip or really soft liquidy clay, that's like the glue to add things together. All right, I've got a message. Sweet. Doing all right today. I got a message off Twitch. People on Facebook, I don't think you can see this. You've seen our Twitch channel before, right on. We're hoping to do a lot more streaming in the next couple weeks. Yeah, messages if you come up with a design for something. We'd love to see that. So slipping and scoring is kind of like gluing and attaching pieces together, right? But for this, not going to do it because everything's soft right now. Everything can kind of get attached with just smearing it together. I call that welding. So as you can see, I had that teardrop shape right there, but I've kind of squished it in, smoothed out all the sides so that it's adhered. I'll add my nostrils, again, just rolling two little spheres. Put that on either side of the nose. Again, just welding it together. It'll look a little weird for a second. I'll add a little bit more clay to the ball of your nose. And good thing, I'm using a Shimpo banding wheel. That's this tool that I've got so I can, spin it around. That's good. So something that people tend to do, and I'm guilty of it, is when you're sculpting a piece that's like a tabletop art piece, meaning it can fit right in front of you on a table, you tend to look at it from one direction at all times. A lot of my pieces have this one very specific angle. If you look at it, it looks the best. And it's usually the angle that I sculpted it at. So if I'm sculpting right now, straight on, slightly at an angle would be the best way to look at this piece. But as you continue sculpting, you want to kind of get away from that habit. So this tool allows me to spin it and see the profile of it. Let me scoot this back so you can see it. So you can see that nose is starting to shape, right? So we don't want a super flat face. We want things to actually come out. So I got my nose. Again, just working with general shapes right now. I'll start going out and I'll do the eyebrow bone. So imagine you start with the general shapes of everything. So imagine like the bone structures, right? So I'm going to focus on like the eyebrow bone area, the cheekbone, and then I'll move down to define the jawline and start working on the mouth. So for the eyebrow, you'll make a crescent moon shape like this, pinched at the end because that's going to smear away. And I'm just going to press that on the clay, just like that. And then I'll smear it on. And both sides, I want to make sure that this thing is secure. Don't need to slip and score it right now because everything is super smooth. I'll do it to the other side. Now these don't have to be the same shape. They don't actually have to go where the eyes go. It's all up to you. That's the wonderful thing about any art. You can do it any way you want. So if any of you have access to clay, please let us know, and we can do some more specific things if you want to learn how to sculpt something more specific. Yeah, but we'll be doing some household art making, just like things you can find around the house and make art with. I'll show you that stuff next couple days. So for the cheekbone, I'm actually making like a slab for the cheekbone. So it's kind of like that crescent moon shape, right? This is where it kind of tapers off and smushes into the piece. But I actually made that bone. And again, just smoothing it. Now I have a lot of tools. I've got a whole toolbox over there filled with years of collecting tools that people have just abandoned, or things that I've found that I could use something specific for. But right now, just using my fingers because I'm not really worried about little details. Now I've noticed I've got this kind of like divot on the inside of the mouth, right? I don't really like that, so I'm going to put some clay in there to kind of get rid of it. So I don't want my person to have like a divot in their mouth, right? Maybe I'll make, do I have any pictures of anyone up in my studio? Maybe I'll try to make someone. Okay, so I've kind of pushed his jaw in. Maybe I want him to have like a weaker jaw, right? Something like that. Now I'll do the mouth. Now a couple ways to do the mouth. I really like sculpting teeth, but a very easy way to make a face is you roll a coil. Now, for building in clay, there's a couple terms that we usually use. I'll take a moment to kind of talk about that. So building with, one of the most common things that you will hear is a coil. Coil is just the ceramic term for a string of clay, right? So you can roll it in your hands. If I was building a lot bigger, you could like pinch it and twist like this. A coil is a string of clay. Now I've got some canvas here. I could roll it out with my camera. So as I'm rolling, I personally use this part of my hand, right? The bottom of the fingers and then the top part of the palm. And I just roll it out. If I see areas that are thicker, I kind of press on those first. Then I have a coil. Now what you can do with a coil is, if I was building like a cup, right, I could slip and score it and keep coiling it up, just like this, right? And then I could take my finger or a tool and I could weld those edges together to attach it. And I could keep building up and up and up until I had whatever vessel I had. If you follow any of my work, the ceramic figures that I make, the coal miner figures that are like 6 foot, 7 feet tall, those actually were made with coils. So I just started at the bottom. I actually made like an internal structure of coils so that it had a little bit more strength and weight. And I just coiled up and up until I had the whole 6 feet of them. So coils for us is good for adding things on, adding the facial features. So I've had this coil. I've made the ends a little bit more pointed. And the reason I'm doing that is because it's going to smooth out really nice. Okay, so this is going to be our top lip. I'm only going to smooth on the top part of the mouth, So that's my top plate. I could put a little divot in the middle so I know where the lip goes. Take one of these coils I rolled out, kind of smooth the sides. Put on the bottom. Again, same thing. Not smoothing out the like mouth side, just the bottom of the lip side. Right? So now I've got a mouth. Okay. I'll bring my camera closer. My wonderful camera I made with some award with it taped to it. So I've got, right there, boom. I've got a face, I've got the mouth, I've got the nose, I've got the area for the eyes. Put this back. What? Someone donate $2? Right on, thank you, sir. Okay, so I've got the mouth. Now let's keep going. We'll add some more details. I'm actually going to get some tools out because I believe it's almost that time. I'm just going to get a couple modeling tools. Now, like I said before, your tools can kind of be whatever you find a use for. So, you know, I've got a fork that's great for scoring things. I'll keep that. Might need that later. The more technical tool you would use would be a metal rib, a serrated rib. So it's got the, I don't know if you can see that, the little scratchies on the side. I could talk about tools for hours. I'll talk about, this is one of my favorite tools I've ever made. We'll use this the next couple days, is a butter knife bent at an angle at the top. This is what I'll use to kind of cut inside the head and then pop the stuff out, scoop it all out, because we need to make that hollow eventually. Yeah, so I grabbed a couple wooden and plastic modeling tools, all different shapes to do different things, and I'm just going to kind of play around with them and see what I can do. Alright, so back to the bust. I'll have the ears on it before I go any further. So for ears, just kind of take a piece of clay, squish it to the shape that you like. Alright, so maybe I want an ear shape like this for the left side. The side that you're going to attach to the piece, you want to give it a little pinch, right? And what that does on the edge, give it a pinch, let me see, like this on the edge, so that you have the ear, and then if you turn it where it's going to be attached, you'll have that little tiny flat spot, and that'll be perfect for adding it to your face. Now, the anatomically correct spot to add it is between your eyebrow or your eye and your mouth. Mine's not going to be anatomically correct. It's going to be a little off. That's okay. Right, there's a little here. I'll do the same thing for the other side. Just kind of pinching it with my fingers, getting to the spot that I like, shaping it. Pinch that edge. See that? Boom, just like that. So I can put it on the other side. This one's a little smaller, but that's all right. I like it. Smoothing all of those seams. All the parts that you want to weld are the seams where the clay touches the other clay, and that's so that it's structurally attached. All right, that's a good looking little weird face. Let's keep going. Still don't like that little divot underneath the nose. So I'm going to add a little bit more clay to kind of fill in that face a little bit more. I don't want to see his bone structure so much. So I'm just adding in some clay. Let's see how many people we got on the stream. Let me check. Boom, got quite a few. Thank you for joining us. If you just joined, again, the reason why we're doing this stream today is because something that's really important to us here at CreatiVets is that no matter what's going on, we want to be available and offer some outlets for people, for veterans dealing with PTS, because we should always have these resources to us. So our mission here is to empower veterans through visual arts and songwriting. So today we're going to do some figure sculpting. Again, if you just joined us, thank you. My name's Garrett, art director for CreatiVets. Doing a little face demo, but over the next couple weeks we'll be doing some music, we'll be doing some different types of art, just kind of walking you through the steps of different processes. I'll be covering some things that you can do at home if you're stuck at home, but you don't have art supplies. I'll find some stuff that we can do without needing art supplies necessarily. Something that I'm really excited to talk about is just painting with different strengths of coffee and tea. But you can use that the same way on any paper that you might have. All right, so I'm getting a little too focused on these little details. We're not there yet. Let's do the eyes. So for the eyes, I'm just going to make like an egg shape with my fingers, but like a flattened egg. It's a little pointed towards the side. Maybe I'll use this camera. I don't know which one's better. Okay, put that in the eye socket like this. Looks a little scary right now, it's all good. Smooth it in like this. Now, if you were doing this, and now I've got really pudgy fingers, right? You could use a tool like this wooden tool. It's got a curved edge on the back that's kind of like a finger. I could use that and kind of smooth it in. Now, with the wood tools, sometimes it pulls the clay a little bit more, right? Because if the clay wants to dry out, and the wood is porous, it's going to pull that moisture out. All right, so you can dip it in some water to kind of smoothen it. But I don't really want to add a lot of water to my piece yet, because that's when you're like done with all the details. All right, so I'm adding some more like meat to where the eyes are. And again, just smoothing it in. Not worrying about slipping and scoring right now because all the clay is the same moisture level. If my clay was if this clay was dry, the body, and I was adding clay to it, I'd want to slip and score that. I'll need to do that next couple of days. All right, let me see if I can find my eye scooping tool. Found it. This is one of my favorite, and in my opinion, one of the best tools you can have as a face sculptor. Now, I've got a lot of these versions, but this is my favorite one. Just a plastic one. You get this for like $2 at Blick, but one side is just a rounded edge, right? The other side is, again, it's got that like nice curve. There, you can see that perfectly right there. Got a nice curve, smooth on the top, and then it's got like a little scoop part on the bottom, so that you can go in and kind of scoop out the nose if you wanted, right? But I'm going to use this to make our eyes. Take off a little bit of that extra moisture there. So for the eyes, you're not just like poking the clay. What I'm actually going to do, I'm going to move this a little closer so you can see it a little better, is you're going to like scoop around. If this is the tool, right? Scooping around the clay, not just poking straight in. All right? And I just want to kind of make that clay in there. You can already kind of see it look like the shape of an eye, more like a sphere. This guy's got some big eyes, so I might be putting some eyelids on there or something to kind of reduce it. Go around the top too. Right. And just general shapes for now. So I wanted to give him an eyelid. Just press in there. And like I said, there's no right or wrong for how to sculpt, because people sculpt in a lot of different ways, different styles. Sorry, I turned that away from you. Right there, I'm just adding these like eyebrow-ish areas. All right, and I don't really like this mouth, so I'm gonna take this off. Right, boom, just like that. Clay's off. I'm gonna make a different shaped mouth. A lot of my pieces are, as I would call them, ugly looking. So I'm gonna try to make them, this one a little bit uglier. So I'm gonna do some teeth, because teeth are really fun to sculpt. Right? So now he's got that like open mouth. Got some more followers. Thank you for joining us. Streaming away. That'll do for now. Alright, I'm gonna do some hair now. So for hair, again, just general shapes. Right, we'll start, maybe I'll do like a pompadour shape. Like this. Just had a question from Dan. Do I make my sculptures ugly intentionally, or is there some meaning behind it? That's a tough question, but I'm drawn to the art term aesthetics of ugly things and what deems things ugly. I actually have, what did I do with that? I had a book in here yesterday about what I had a book in here about the aesthetics of ugliness. But I really like really exaggerated features, really gritty things. Some work that I do personally is called grit culture. So that's just about, that's a larger topic of just like thinking about the past and things that are supposed to be, hello from Kenton Avenue. Hello, mother. So grit culture is about taking things that are not pretty, not ideal, and glorifying them. So what makes something ugly, but you can kind of phrase it as it looks nicer. So for my pieces, I really like things that are like, they look dirty, they look like grotesque almost. That's a good term to use. I have a, let's see if you can see it. Oh, I'm blocking it with my makeshift camera. I did a series of drawings of these just like really ugly figures, but I'm really attracted to the colors that I use, and what else? The colors that I use, the composition, just like all the little tiny details. I really like details. So in a lot of my ceramic pieces, I do a lot of really details in the mouth, in the texture of the skin. So it's kind of intentional with wanting to make them ugly, but I don't consider them ugly. I think that's how I describe them, because the larger idea is that pieces that aren't clean and pristine, those are uglier or they're dirtier, but I really like them. So I'm interested in that that play between what makes something ugly. So my own work, one, it's just because I really like the way, like I enjoy sculpting it that way. I like adding a lot of details. I like being rough with the clay, letting the clay kind of show off what it does. But at the same time, that conversation of what is ugly, right? It's all your personal opinion. All right, he's getting like a weird zombie Elvis vibe. Kind of like it. We'll see. Now the clay right now at the top is very textured. It looks like clay still. I'll go back in a second and kind of re-sculpt the hair. Something that's good when you add hair is that it's a perfect spot to go back in later and carve it out. So again, looking at it from different perspectives, right? My face is kind of flat, right? But the hairs kind of give a little bit more dimension. I don't really have much of a forehead, so I'll add a little bit more of a forehead now. Boom. Boom, just like that. Just like that. And I'll go back in. I'm just kind of smoothing in that hairline. That's okay. I'll take a tool later and kind of smooth that out. I'm starting to see that my chin is kind of disappearing, or I didn't really add a chin, so I'm going to add a chin. And again, if anyone has any questions on clay or any type of art making, figure making, just send them in the chat. I can see we've got some streamers on different platforms, but I can see all your messages, so feel free to message. Okay, so now I'm just adding a little tiny piece of clay, just adding that bottom chin area. He doesn't really have a jawline, so I'm going to add some jaws. Now for jaws, again, that crescent moon shape is really nice for when adding clay, but this one will be kind of like a, right, we want the actual jawbone. Okay, so it's pinched at the edges, right, so we can smooth it in, but then I want that angular part, right, that 90-degree angle for his jaw. And I'll just add that where I think if I want his jaw more forward, he looks maybe a little bit more stupid. I'll put him in the back. Maybe I'll make him look a little bit stronger. I don't know, we'll see what it looks like. And again, if you don't like it, just take it off. And we've got something of a jaw now. And I'll go back in there later. I'm just taking my finger, kind of smoothing that jawline out. Oh, we got someone from Charleston. Welcome. Glad to have you. Doing my other jaw again, that same shape, just like this. Boom. Want that angular jaw? That's a little too big. I'll take some of that out. For again, people that are just joining us now, thank you so much for streaming with us today. We're doing this. Please share, like, comment, tag some people in it. We'll be doing some giveaways. I'll be doing some giveaways from some prints that I've done. So make sure you tag some people in the comments below so that we can get some more people on here. Share it to your pages or wherever else people might enjoy it. Because again, we're all kind of in the same boat right now. We're all kind of stuck at home. We really want to reach out to the people that need something to engage with, right? We want to be able to offer some sort of outlet. Okay, just again redefining that jawline. This is an interesting sculpture. All right, I'm gonna give him a little like hair curl. Maybe I'll do that. Yeah, I like this like greaser look I got going on. There's a little curl for him to do. All right. Okay. I'm gonna work on a shirt now. Maybe I'll do. What kind of shirt should I do? I'm just gonna take off a little clay so he doesn't have a super thick neck. Right, just defining those shoulders. Perfect time to do a flannel. All right, I'll do a flannel. I'll take a moment to take a drink out of our CreatiVets mug. Shout out to a wonderful, very talented ceramicist here in Tool. We'll do a flannel. Who said that? Windy City Brody. I wonder who that could be. Shout out to my boy Finn from Texas. We got some Texans in the chat now. Yeah, so I'll do a flannel. What I'll do for that is I need to make the collar, and then I'll just kind of press the details of a flannel in. Since I have someone giving me some suggestions for the shirt, should the flannel be like how I got a flannel on a shirt, or should it just be the flannel? What do you think, Windy City Brody? See if I get a response. Alright, so got a flannel collar here. Just a strip of, it's a coil, but it's kind of like a flat pancake of a coil. I'm going to smooth out the back of this guy's neck first before I end it. Boom, boom, boom. Pinching it a little bit more because I want it a little bit more flat. Just flannel, no shirt. Since it's snowing by you guys and it's 90 here. That's so funny. It's not even snowing here today. How's the weather in Texas? Not even snowing here in Chicago. Now for this, because I'm not going to smooth this in, I think I will slip and score it. So I'll take a metal rib. I'm going to score the clay like this. Just get a little scratch. And then you also want to score the piece that you're going to add. So I've got the piece. Score it. So I've got my score on here. I've got my score on here. I'll take a little bit of water. Now, I'm not going to use slip. I'm just going to use a little bit of water. Push it on. Give it a little press. Not super crazy. Loving the weather here in Fort Worth. 71 perfect degrees. Wow. I went outside. I left my toolbox in the car before I was going to start this. And I went out with just a coat and some slippers. And it's cold. So I'm jealous. It's all good. Now what I'm doing is I'm just taking my tool and just kind of like cleaning up this bottom part. Right, so I don't have all this kind of junk in the way. I'm liking the way that looks so far. Alright, so now I've got the back collar area. And again, I could press that a little bit more. I think I will. Just kind of flatten that collar a little bit so it looks a little bit more natural. And I'll go back in with a little tool and do some stuff. So let's do the front of the collar. Now the front of the collar, let's see. I'm going to make a continuation of the collar piece. And then I'm going to make this front part. So like looking at my collar like this. Boom. Let me check, see how many people we got on here. We've got some more. Thank you again for being here. Boom. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. Okay. So I'm going to make this front collar part like this. Boom. So this is just like literally the collar piece. So a little negative space. Not smoothing it out. The dilly hairstyle? Yeah, I got the dilly dip going on. For those of you that don't know, it's the nickname of my cousin. When I first started sculpting, my first ceramic sculpture I actually ever made was a portrait of my cousin. When I went to art school, I used him as my muse quite a few times. Shout out to my cousin Max, who let me make paintings of him and sculptures of him. And I even remember there was a project that I did that I wanted to learn how to make like prosthetics for like movies. And he let me sculpt on his face for like 2 hours. He laid on my parents' kitchen floor and just like let me sculpt. Took a little nap. Alright, so I added a little bit of water. I just slipped and scored this collar piece. And once I do finish this collar piece, I'll go back in and start adding some details to the face, because that's the fun stuff. But I wanted to get some of these general shapes done. Now my fingers are too thick to fit through there, so I'm just taking my tool, smoothing it out, right? So we can see he's starting to get a little collar there. I'll make another one. And I can make these a little bit more like clothes, a little bit. I like that. I don't like the eyes. I'll mess with the eyes in a second. Pardon me while I eat my Hot Pocket. Alright. Scoring my pieces on, taking my tool and just reinforcing that seam. Cleaning up that shirt collar around it. This side's a little bit lower, that's okay. Alright. Again, reinforcing that seam. I got my little tool in here, just kind of squishing it together to make sure that it's attached. Alright, now for the shirt itself, I'm just going to press the details into the clay. So here, right, see that shirt's coming through now? Take a curved tool, right, so that has a little curve, make it look like his chest areas are popping out. Oh. All right. Set a check and make sure which side the shirt goes on. Right, getting the shirt details now. Let me see. Alright, so we got some more people joining on right now. Thanks again for people that are streaming with us right now. Just quick introductions if you weren't here before. My name's Garrett Leo. I'm the art director for CreatiVets. We're starting to roll out some virtual demos and hopefully classes in the next couple of weeks so that people that are kind of stuck inside and don't have much to do, they can find some comfort in this. But the big reason why we're doing this is because our mission at CreatiVets is to empower veterans with arts and music, and no matter what's going on, we want to be able to offer that. So we do programming. We've had a program at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago for the past several years where we have veterans come in from across the country and learn all sorts of art. SAIC is a wonderful space. We have access to almost every medium you can imagine, and we teach them how to make art and how to give them the tools to start healing, right? So being that we can't do that right now with these quarantines, we want to be able to offer something for people to do. So right now I'm doing some face demos. I'll be working on this week, finishing it up, and then we'll also be starting some other classes for like what you can do at home for art making. There's a lot of things you can do with just household materials. Like I mentioned before, we'll be doing some coffee and tea paintings this week. So if you have any coffee or tea laying around at home and you can spare some, that's something that you can do with me. We'll have some musicians come on and play us some music, talk about what they make and their process. Just gave them a cleft chin, I like that. So we're doing a lot. I think I'll do, let's work on the eyes now, because I kind of want the eyes to be a little smaller. So I'm just squishing on the clay again. Sorry, I keep turning it to the right. Maybe I'll put a camera on the right next time. Right, just making it a little bit smaller. Maybe I'll do one big eye. Switching from my clay tool to my finger. I'm gonna actually, both the eyebrows are like the same level right now. I think I'm gonna have like the left eye a little squished, and then the right eye a little squished, and then the left eye make it a little bit bigger. We'll go a little like zombie eyed. I like that. I'm just smoothing it out now. Alright, since I did that, I kind of lost some of the clay from the top of the eye. I'm just going to add a little bit more back. Right, we want that bone area to stay solid. Alright, so now he's getting a little weird. Don't mind it. Getting a little bit more meat on his cheek. Smoothing it out. Okay. So, let's start in the details. So I'm going to add some more skin to his face. Doing a thin coil, pointed at the end. Start at his nose, give him like a laugh line. And again, I'm just going to give it a little press. And I'm going to smooth the outside part, leaving that inside part to look like some skin. Just reinforce that curve down here with my tool. Same here, adding that little coil. Press it down. Alright. Let's do some detail on the hair now. Or we'll do that, we'll finish the eye. So again, that tool that I really, really liked, that curved tool, I'll start sculpting the eye. Now for, maybe he could wear a name badge that reads Mr. Corona. I could do that. He could be Mr. Corona, little creepy guy. For the eye, so when you make a sculpture, your pupils, the dark spot in your eye, are flat, obviously. But for sculpture, we want to give the illusion that there's that flat part. So I'm just going to take this and like actually press into the clay, and I'll leave a little bit at the top as like the reflection. Boom, we've got an eye, right? Just like that. And I'll do it again for this side. I'm just like pressing it straight in the clay. Let me move this. You can see my lovely camera stand again. I'm just pressing straight in the clay. And I'm actually going to take some clay out of this side because it's a little bit bigger. So the reason I do this instead of like painting it is I give the illusion of an eye from a distance, right? And again, everything's very generic right now. I'll clean these up and make them sharper lines the next couple days. The thing with working in ceramics is you can't do everything at once, at least with what I'm trying to do right now. I need to give the clay a break, give it a rest, but now I've got a big eye just like that. I kind of squished it, so I'm going to clean up around the eye so I keep the shape that I like. Just like that. Maybe I'll take the eye out. I don't know, we'll see. Alright, going to work on the hairline now. So for the hairline, I'm just going to press it in, right? Because the hair goes back. I'm going to give him a little bit of a widow's peak. So I'm just pressing out the edge of the hair like that. So I'm just carving out some clay because I really want that hair to be defined. Give the Mr. Cragen widow's peak right on. And I'll give it just like this. Alright. So he's getting a little bit more hair now. Just defining. I remember I smoothed all that stuff out so it was attached. Now I'm going back and carving it off. Now for the back of the head, I've got a little extra clay. I'm just going to smooth it on like this, so that hair that I added will just go straight into the head, and then I'll press right into the head shape, the hairline. Smooth the hair clay on. Now I've got that hairline at the back. Okay. Actually, you know what? I like that. Kind of like a zombie Johnny Cash right now. And I'm just gonna jump back and forth in some spots so that as people join in, they can see a little bit of everything. Press some clay on there because I want the hair to be a little bit more there. I want this part of the clay to stand out a little bit more for the hair, so I'm just gonna add a little bit more because I want to have a hair comb part. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a tool like this. Just poking it in and stabbing it so I have that part. Because what I'll do is, again, starting from generic shapes, is you'll do multitasking, realizing I'm not good at it. A zombie named Sue. Well, I guess I'll have to give you like a portion of when I sell this now, because you came up with the title. I like that, zombie named Sue. So again, just like when I was sculpting the face, I'm going to start with generic shapes first. So for the hair, I'm going to start adding some like big curls. I'll give him some wavy hair. A zombie named Sue, I like that. On the back, again, just pressing in some big curls, and I'll have it curl. Ooh, I can show, I know that Mr. Cragen's on here, I can show some of my pieces that I know he wants to see. And then when I get closer to the bottom of the neck, I'll do more lines, right? Zoom in on that. Yeah, you can see that. So give him a little swirl at the back, bigger shapes here, but then towards the neck, I'm doing a little bit more detailed lines, not so many big ones. And I'll do that to the front as well. More sporadic. And I'll show a really cool trick for smoothing out this to make it look like slicked down hair. I might be able to do it today. We'll see. I'm just using one tool for now, but I'll eventually go back in with some more. Okay, so now I've got some hair texture on him. I might tilt his head a little bit more forward. Like that. Again, looking at it from different sides, how's it going to look? I'm going to curve some of this back off. Because I want that shape of the torso to make a little bit more sense. Okay. Now I'll add some wrinkles to the forehead. So again, the same coil with a pinched edge. Just gonna press it on. It doesn't need to be super detailed. Just to have that clay to play with. All right, and then I'm gonna take this like knife-ish shape. Use the back of it. Kind of carve out some wrinkles. Right, so now he's getting a little bit more texture. And then I like to do these like cross wrinkled. So it's like really detailed like that. And I'll do the same thing. Do I want his chin a little bit bigger? Maybe I do. And I've got the idea that this is a zombie Johnny Cash in my head, so I'm shifting, giving him some more of a jowl. Alright, now I'm going to give him some eye wrinkles. I'll do eyebrows a bit. Just kind of carving away, reshaping his face. Got a little zombie cash going on. Alright, I'm going to work on defining the nose a little bit more. So now I'm starting to get into those details. I'll add some wrinkles to the nose in a second too. Back into this tool, that smooth part. Push straight in, like that. Define that nostril cavity. Move my, this you can see a little bit better. Boom. Alright. Maybe I'll do some teeth. I'm going to take this bottom lip off for a second. I'm going to add some teeth. Now for the teeth, again, using that favorite tool of mine, the curved one, I'm going to kind of scoop around like that, the teeth. That's the top of his teeth. And then I'll just press up. Underneath the teeth, kind of scooping out the bottom. Alright, there's the top. It's going to be a little ugly. Talked about that. My work usually is a little grotesque. I just like the little details of everything. Or I'll leave the lip like that. Maybe it'll look like that. I don't know. Bottom teeth. And I'm going to go back in. I'll flatten the top of them. So they look like teeth and not just gunk in there. Boom, just like that. And I'm just going to, with my fingers, kind of flatten them so that they're touching. And then I can put the lips on top. So I'm going to take a foil, a little bit of water because it got a little dry. And I'm going to flatten, pre-flatten one of the edges. Get a little bit off right there. Got his bottom lip on. Take a little bit of water. The lips are a little cracked just because the clay is drying. I'll bring that top lip down too. Right? He's getting a little bit more of a grimace. And I'm just kind of adding the corners of his lips. Pressing into his mouth to give him some like inside mouth parts. Make it look like his teeth actually go back into the mouth and aren't just on the front. That. And a little bit more clay to his lip. Smoothing it out. I don't like that big eye anymore, so I'm just going to take it off. I'll take my wire tool. Slice it right off. And then just using the clay that's there, add a little bit more back. I want to reshape that because I like the idea of it being a normal eye now. So I'm just kind of re-sculpting it again. That's why I build solid, so that I can do stuff like that. Like already I've got part of the eye back. I'm going to put in this cheekbone. Just kind of rebuilding that face now. Defining that laugh line again. Lost a little bit of it. Boom. Getting a little gnarly. Fixing his sideburns. They're a little uneven. Just the ears have caught my attention. Now for the ears, I'm just gonna take this again, same tool. I do a lot with this tool. I'm just gonna press in to suggest. What's up, Mr. Joseph? Suggest the idea of an ear, right? Doesn't have to be exact. What I usually do, and this is for my drawings and for my sculptures, the first name is Garrett, so I usually sculpt G's. That's just a little thing in all my pieces. If you have one, whether it's a sculpture or a drawing, the ears are usually just little G's, little tiny Easter egg I hide in all my pieces. And I'm going to make some wrinkles coming up from the side, bottom of the ear, just like that. For those of you just tuning in, I've already had someone name it. This is a zombie named Sue. So I'm just going off the top of my head, trying to sculpt Johnny Cash-ish. Maybe I'll bring a photo in a little bit. I'm sure I can find one on my house. Can I sculpt Richard Casper next? I don't know about that. You know, it's hard to replicate masterpieces, you know? So probably can't do that. Just adding that little eyelid back in. It's a little wonky right now, but I'm reshaping it. So like 2 minutes ago I didn't have an eye, now I'm getting the eye back. Boom, just like that, and I've got 2 normal sized eyes. I would need a lot of clay to sculpt Richard Casper. I'd need about like 10 pounds of it. Oh, I mean 400 pounds. My hair's starting to do a little clay frizzy. I'm gonna go ponytail in here. Let's get it. Get my Samurai Jack look. All right. Okay, so might have to start letting this dry. Oh, I'll work on the back. I never finished the back. Okay, for this back scene, I'm just going to take a... Oh, okay. Hold on. So we got names. Yeah, so best name right now, Jeremy Michael came up with a zombie named Sue. So far, that's what it's going with. Right? Started off as a greaser thing. Then it kind of shifted into a lumberjack with the flannel suggestion. Now it's turned into like a Johnny Cash zombie. So Richard, we're naming the sculpture. Like I said, the lead right now is a zombie named Sue. So if you can beat that, you can beat it. We'll name it. What I'm doing is I'm just gonna, where I drew that hairline on the back, I'm just scooping off that extra clay so that the hair is on top of the skin, not the other way around. Let me see. Let me check how many people are on. All right, so we've got some more people from the last time. Just a little bit about, if you just joined us, my name's Garrett Leo. I'm the art director for CreatiVets. CreatiVets' mission is to empower veterans using music and arts and just creative energy in general. We know that everyone's kind of holed up right now. A lot of our programs are pausing right now, so we wanted to start something new, start something fresh. So we're going to start doing some online demonstrations and videos like this. I'm just going through ceramic sculpture in general. This is what I do in my personal practice. I do figurines. So if you just joined us, this was my example piece that I have already finished. It's already cooked, it's already set. So I wanted to make another figure just like that, just a simple bust. But over the next couple weeks, we'll be doing some demos for different art mediums, not necessarily all like this, where you might not have clay readily available. But I'll be kind of MacGyvering some things that you could do at home with just things that you have. So something that we'll definitely do is some tea paintings, some coffee paintings. We'll do that this week. When I'll need to take a break from this, I'll kind of cover that. Just had a quick question. Will we need to fire this? Yes, this clay will need to fire it in a kiln. So I'll talk a little bit more about just like the process of clay. But yeah, as I was saying, this week we'll be doing some music, some music classes, demonstrations, some art classes, demonstrations, so that people that are at home can kind of find some more resources in what we offer. And that was something that we want to be able to offer all veterans, is in situations like this, CreatiVets can offer resources to you to explore creative outlets. So this will need to be fired in a kiln. For those of you unfamiliar with clay, right now I'm working with just a stoneware clay. That's just a term for ceramics that will need to be cooked in a kiln. So a kiln's like a big oven. I'll fire it, and then when you fire it, the pieces will be turned into stone. That'll survive, be weatherproof depending on the temperature you take it to. So this, I'll take it to about a cone 6. It will be weather safe. That just means it won't absorb a lot of water, and I could leave it outside. So this is one of the mediums that we start in all of our art programs. At SAAC, CreatiVets has been working and partnering with them for the past several years, and we always start with clay. It's just something that you can immediately get your hands dirty with and start working on. And that's something that me personally, why I'm drawn to it, is just because you can get your hands dirty and just immediately do something, and you can feel the art change depending on how you're sculpting. If you have been with me since we started, this did not look like this when I started. It's come a long way. There's a lot more to do on it, but yeah, just clay is something that can evolve, and you can do a lot with it. Just adding those little details now. So clay, a little bit about clay. This is plastic right now, meaning it's very pliable, right? I can smooth it, I can take it off, I can add more. Eventually it'll start drying. This is a clay that will lose moisture. So as it loses moisture, it'll become leather hard, which is when it can hold its shape, and I can do a little bit more carving and like fine detail work, which is something I might do for when I do the eyebrows, or if I want to add a texture to the shirt, right? But then after it continues to dry, it'll become bone dry. When something is bone dry, I actually have a piece of it. So this is clay that it's pretty solid. It's just lost all of its moisture, so it's dried out. Before you fire it in a kiln, you can always recycle it. So if I soak that in water, it'll rehydrate and I can use it again. And then after you fire it in a kiln, it becomes bisqueware, which is before you put any glaze on it or any slip, any color, any glass, right, coating. And then after that, we'll fire it and it'll become glazed, and it'll go up to a different temperature. So each time we fire it, we tend to take it up generally to a different temperature. Yeah, so that's just a little bit about clay. This is a solid piece of clay. For those of you that joined and did not see me start, this is solid. All ceramic pieces will need to be hollow, and the reason we do that is because if there's any air trapped inside of it or any water trapped inside of it, when we cook it in a kiln, it's going to want to find an escape. So if this is a solid piece of clay and I didn't get all the moisture out and I have an air pocket, it'll crack or it'll explode, right? So probably not today, next couple days, our next demo, once I finish the details, I'll actually take this apart. I'm thinking I'll cut out part of the hair, and that's where I'll use my bent butter knife tool that I was talking about earlier, and kind of take the scalp off and then scoop in and take the clay out. And I'll do that with loop tools like this, and I'll use these to kind of scoop out all the extra clay, smooth it out, make it nice. Because we want it to be hollow. And also, if you leave it solid, or if it's got too much clay on the inside, it'll just be really heavy, right? A lot of my work, something that I always struggle with is making things light enough. I tend to make really solid, heavy pieces of clay for art, and that's not necessarily the best. Especially when you need to move apartments. I just recently moved to a new apartment, and for those of you that are on that may or may not have helped me move, it's hard carrying heavy things, especially when it's just, 50 pounds and a small object like this, and you got to carry 10 of them, Okay, so I'm going to do, I like the way that looks. I'm going to reshape the jaw a little bit. I'm going to add some details, just like I added the wrinkles at the top. I'm just redefining those a little bit because they kind of got squished. I'm sorry, I originally had planned to put on some music, but couldn't figure it out. This is my first time streaming, so I couldn't figure out how to have all the streaming stuff and have the Spotify up on my laptop. My phone is currently my second camera. If you haven't seen, there's my wonderful, hello, setup for my camera. I just taped it to some award that I found. Oh Lord, I'm breaking it. So just something I had I taped it to, and that's been working out pretty well. Okay, so reshaping the jaw. I just want that jowl part, right, where I have that skin coming down. I want that to be a little bit more defined. Now I'm carving out a little bit. I want the cheekbones to be a little bit more prominent. I know before I kind of filled them, but again, now I've kind of got an idea for the character that I'm creating. It's more of like a zombie character. This side, again, if I rotate it, it looks a little different from different perspectives, and that's what we want. You can have a sculpture that's very flat. I don't like that in my personal art. So what I'm doing now is just kind of making shadows. That's the best way to put it, is when the light hits your piece, where do the shadows go? Right? Loving the trophy tripod. Yeah, I mean, let's get another look at it again. Looks fantastic. Let's see what it's for. Fine Arts, the Dr. Geronimo Memorial Award. I got. That's what that's from. And then in here, I'm just kind of, now this isn't, again, talking about anatomically correct. This isn't necessarily the most anatomically correct thing, but I'm sculpting in it more so that I can have more shadows without having to add any colorants to it, right? Oh, I never finished this. I finished making some wrinkles on the nose. And again, if you're on here and you want to learn a specific medium during your quarantine, during your social distancing, drop a comment wherever you're watching it on so I can see it, because I just unloaded all of my art supplies into my new office, and I can go and do some demos during a bunch of stuff. This dude needs a gold chain 100%. Dan, I mean, I agree. That might be the next thing. I'm working with big shapes right now, again, going like really generic forms, and now I'm getting to the nitty gritty stuff, kind of pressing in all those details, really fine things like that. Like if I wanted to add a gold chain to it, I would do that once I get all these details done. Otherwise, I would break it. I mean, people are probably a lot more gentler than I am with sculpting. I've sculpted quite a bit in there. I kind of like that. what else have people been doing with their time? If you're not at work, what are some things people have been doing? I'm curious. I moved during all of this. I moved apartments. Some of the people that helped me move during this, watching this stream. So again, thank you so much for getting that done. But what have people been up to? It's definitely interesting to find out what people are doing. So if you want to volunteer what you've been doing, comment in the stream comments wherever you're at. We're on Twitch and Facebook and YouTube, wherever you're at. Okay, I like that look for the face. I'm gonna finish the nose now. I like adding a lot of details to the nose, like they're scrunching up their nose or yelling or something. I'm just adding some wrinkles and things. Dan also moved. Yeah, lots of cleaning. Yeah, that's I feel that. This was the first room. This is the only room in my new apartment that is completely set up. Every other room is kind of. Maybe we'll give a studio tour of the entire apartment. No, I'm not gonna do that. Okay. Taking a little bit more off the nose. Kind of even it out. So now I've got like a really scrunched up nose. I like that. I'm gonna make this. I don't even know what it's called. That little divot in between your lips. I'm gonna smooth that out. Exaggerate it a little bit more. Because again, I like that shadow. And now I'm just thinking about like, right, I started out with everything very even, symmetrical, the eyes, but now the facial, the way the skin falls on the face, it adds a lot to the character. So I'm gonna bring this, like the right side more snarled in, and then the outside kind of a little bit more open. I like the way that looks. Right, I like that. So now I've got like a closed side and then an open side. All right. So I think I'm gonna work a little bit on the hair now. Add some more wrinkles to the chin real quick. And again, this is just like my personal preference of sculptures. Right, I like those like really wrinkled faces. Philtrum is the space between your nose. Right here? The philtrum, in case people were curious. Thank you to my researchers. Alright, I'm going to smooth out this hair now to make it look a little bit more like it's slicked hair, not necessarily like super scratchy and rough like this. So first just going to like wipe off all the little tiny bits. I'm going to grab a brush. Now for this, I'm going to grab a shorter brush, preferably one with like semi-stiff bristles. I don't want them super coarse because that'll add a texture to the clay itself. But I don't want it to be super soft because then it's just going to smear everything. So for this, take a little water in my brush. and I'm just gonna paint it on. I try to not splatter it all over my freshly painted walls. I'm just redefining those lines before I can start carving in on them. Yeah, I think I'll just do a little once over real quick. Just kind of all these little tiny like boogers of clay that I've made when I was carving it, I'm just going back in and taking them off before I smooth it out. How long does something this big need to dry? So it depends. Clay, I could wrap this piece up and leave it for like months. Actually, funny story. The clay that I'm using, you buy it in these like 25-pound bags. I had 50 pounds of this clay that I bought 2 years ago, and forgot that I bought it, and just had it wrapped up really nice so that no moisture could leave, and it's still super pliable. So I could leave this wrapped for 2 years and it would be fine, depending on how much you wrap it and how well you wrap it. For what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to need to hollow this out. I'll probably finish the general shape of it today. Again, not getting super small details yet, just getting like the general shape where it's at, where it's still rough on the surface. Let me see if I can get a little zoom in on it. Ooh, look at that. So a little rough on the surface, got little bits everywhere, that's okay. But I'll probably let it just sit out, no coverage on it for the rest of the day so that the outside thickens or the outside hardens. Another benefit to building solid is the clay on the surface will start to dry, and the clay on the inside, like the inside of the piece, will stay moist because it's not being exposed to air. So it'll create like a shell, right? So like if you put like I don't even know why, but it'll create a shell on the outside where it's tougher, and this will dry before the inside. So then when it's strong enough that I can touch it without like the face smearing, I'll take off most likely I'll decapitate it or take off this like hair section and then pop it off, carve inside, pick it up like this, carve the bottom, and then take all the like soft clay out, and then there will be a shell, maybe yay big, of like the outer layer. So I'm basically leaving that outer layer. So I'll leave it out today so that the outer layer can harden. Tomorrow I'll smooth out. Tomorrow I'll probably just hollow it then before I add any little details, reattach it, and then I can add all those little details. So for me, this will take a day or two to dry. For it to be ready to be fired, again, when you want to fire something in ceramics, you want to keep it, you want it as bone dry as possible. That means all moisture is out of it, because if there's a little pocket of moisture, let's say in the nose, right? Because I'm not going to be able to hollow right up to that nose, and it heats up, that gas, that moisture, that evaporation is going to want to find a way out. And if it can't find a natural way out, like a hole in the nose, it's going to break out. It's just going to explode. So it could be that the face pops off. It could be the whole thing just falls apart. So for like total drying time, once I'm all done, I've got all my details, it's ready to be fired. Could take a couple weeks depending on the humidity of my apartment, because it'll just be here. I'm hoping in like a week or two it'll be ready to be fired. You can fire with some wetness, just you need to fire it for a longer period of time, not so fast. So yeah, it all depends, but that's roughly it. For like what I'm doing, a day or two to kind of dry so that I can hollow it, and then a week or two to let it kind of dry out. And that's, again, all very dependent on the moisture levels and the humidity of wherever it's being stored. But if I wanted to keep this, I would just wrap it with just plastic, and I could even mist the inside of the bag, and then it could keep for a while. Dan had a question: do you have to finish your work in a kiln, or can you reuse the clay over and over, say if you want to practice? You could use this clay over and over again. Like I said, I'll show you. Here's just a bucket of dried clay. So what we call it reclaim. So this is all bone dry, all the moisture's out of it. It's just the extra clay. But if I put this in a bucket with just water, it would break it all down to a slip. Now a slip, for those of you that weren't here when I first started talking about that, slip is just like a sludge, like a slurry of clay. So it's like frosting almost, or it could be thinner. And then you just let that sit out on like a plaster slab is usually what people use it for. So plaster will pull the moisture out of the clay. So if you lay out like a thin layer of like frosting consistency clay, it'll pull the moisture out, and then you can squish it back, called wedging. So you knead it like bread dough, and you can reconstitute it as a clay. So you could, in theory, use this over and over and over again. I would recommend, if you wanted to do just casual sculpting, you don't want to actually finish pieces, or you don't want finished ceramic pieces where you fire it in a kiln, you could just get an oil-based clay. And I might have some here somewhere. I could do a little demo on that maybe tomorrow when I find it. So oil-based clay is oil-based, it's not water-based, so there's nothing to evaporate, and it'll stay plastic, right? That level of moisture, it'll stay plastic forever. So if you wanted to do something where you're sculpting a lot of things and then squishing it, restarting it, I would get an oil-based clay so that you don't have to, soak your dry clay in water, knead it back, and then worry about it drying out. If you're just sculpting to practice, and that's what I encourage with a lot of my students, before you do something like this, if you've never done clay before, it would be a good idea to kind of play around with an oil-based clay so that you can do a little mock-up, a little practice, and just get familiar with working three-dimensional, not just flat. And then that way you could just squish it and just keep going, and it'll never dry out. The other thing is just like the health safety of this. As the clay dries, it makes a dust, right? So my hands have like a little thin layer of dust on it. It's not safe to breathe in, right? So I don't need a respirator or anything because I'm not making any dust clouds right now. Like if I clap my hands, I wouldn't want to breathe that in. Over time, if you breathe in clay dust, ceramic clay dust specifically, there's a component in there called silica, flint silica, which is like a glass, right? So what it does is it gets in your lungs and it gives you like these really tiny microscopic cuts, and you'll get silicosis. So that's like a long-term, you're breathing in clay dust. You don't want to do that. So whenever you're doing something like this, you want to be safe with the process you're doing. If you can see on my table, tilt this down, I've got a canvas out to kind of collect all that dust. I'll wipe that off with a wet sponge. I'll take all these little bits of clay that I've accumulated from just ripping the clay apart and make sure that it's squished back up, reconstituted with some moisture. If you're doing any big studio clean, let's say you're working in clay, or you want to start and you want to have like clay and you got it all over the floor, on your desk, just make sure you use water. Don't sweep if you've got clay on the floor. If you are going to, I would do a mop. I would get, just like mist it with a bottle of water, kind of sponge it off and then clean it up. So yeah, if you're going to be doing a lot of just like reusing of clay, you don't want to actually fire anything, I would just do oil clay, because oil clay you don't need to fire, and oil clay will always stay moist and not moist, but it'll stay at a plastic consistency, right? So yeah, it's 2 o'clock. I'm going to keep working on this for people that still want to watch. I still have a little bit more to do. For today, I'm just going to kind of finish the general shape of everything. I'm liking where it's going. I'll need to add more details tomorrow for sure once it's a little bit drier. But what I want to do is I want to kind of get some texture to the shirt right now, because the suggestion was a flannel shirt. So I want to give it some sort of texture. So I'm going to kind of find some tools right now and just kind of keep working on it. So if you're still here, feel free to ask me some questions about what we do here at CreatiVets, or if you have any art-related questions, like you want to do something over the course of your time during your social distancing, feel free to let me know. You can message us on Facebook or Instagram, and we can kind of customize what I do over the next couple of days. Like I said, we'll have some different artists, both musician and visual artists, kind of come on here and stream what we do, what they do, to kind of talk about things, different things that you can do in your time of self-distancing. But if you have anything specific you wanted to do, just let us know, and we'll see if we can get that done. I might stay on here for like another 30 minutes, because I know we're going to have some I think songs, some musical performances at 4 today. I'll double check that. We'll make some posts about what's happening. If you don't already follow us on Instagram or like us on Facebook, please do that. So if you're coming in from a different platform that's not Facebook, go like us on Facebook. Go follow us on Instagram, because we will be posting updates the next couple weeks before we do things. So like I said, this is the first one. I'll be doing this 12 to 2-ish roughly every day this week. I'll be working on this piece. I'll definitely want to finish this by the end of the week. I'll make like a little pedestal for him and everything. But I'll also be doing some other stuff. So if you're kind of like, man, I really want to do something at home, but I don't know what, and I don't want to go out to get art supplies, I'll kind of show you some stuff you can do with supplies that most likely you have in your house, or foods that are already in your house that you can make some art with. And just for my own, just so you can kind of know what and if you weren't here from the beginning, I'm licensed to teach K through 12 visual arts in the state of Illinois. So I know how to teach a little bit of everything, at least on a basic level, so people can get started with what materials they have. We can cover all mediums. Like I said, my studio is kind of jam-packed with some supplies that we can use to kind of show everyone what to get started with. But then, me personally, I do a lot of drawing, so I'll probably do some drawing demos this week. I do sculpture, so this again is like the project I'll be working on all week to kind of show you the different steps of working in clay. But yeah, just get experimenting with some stuff. And if you are a veteran streaming in, check us out. If you're interested in learning some songwriting or arts, check us out on our website, CreatiVets.org, and you can kind of see the programs that we offer, so that when the world goes back to normal in a little bit, start some classes up. Join some of our programs. We'd love to have you. And now I'm just kind of like fine-tuning these little details. I'm just adding like some places under the eyes, sculpting out the face a little bit more, defining like what the bone structure underneath looks like, right? Because that all determines the mood or emotion and tone of the piece. There we go. Today at 4 p.m. we'll have a guitar lesson led by Grammy Award-winning songwriter Tim Fagany. I think that's how you pronounce it. Sorry if I just butchered that, Tim. But yeah, so get back on 4 o'clock today, and we'll be doing some guitar lessons. So if you've got a guitar at home and you haven't done that in a while, hop back on. It'd be the time to do it. He'll be a little bit more entertaining than me. He is a professional at this. They just kind of gave me the tech and said, all right, find the problems and what we're going to do. I'm like, all right, sounds good. I'm just adding some shirt texture. I'm going to smooth it out a little bit. I'm not going to leave it so rough. Going like for a corduroy flannel almost. So I'm going to take that brush that I have. Now I went over it with a rib, a serrated rib, so that it's got a little internal texture, so like really small details, as well as having these big lines in it. And something else to be just aware of when you're working in clay is you got to give it time to relax. You want to, like if you're adding a lot of water to it, you don't want to keep going at it because then the clay is going to start losing its structure. It's going to start getting weak and it'll start getting floppy and then you'll have to restart your piece and you don't want to do that. So I'm adding a lot of water to the surface right now because I'm smoothing out the shirt texture that I just added, and then I'm going to leave it alone and work on the face because I haven't added any water to that. But this whole area of the shirt, once I have that on there, I'm just going to leave it alone. I know we're not streaming on Instagram right now, but when I get my webcam hooked up, we'll also go live on there. So if it's more accessible for you to be on Instagram watching this, we'll have that set up by the end of this week. If you haven't done so already, you can sign up for our newsletters as well. You can do that on our website, CreatiVets.org, and then you can get additional information on things we'll be offering during this time. I'm just cleaning up that collar so that it looks like a collar. Right, that's where he's at. Right now, it's looking pretty good. Now I will do that method with the brush with smaller brushes to smooth out his face so it's not so rough. I will do that, not today because it's too wet. It'll just kind of squish everything together. I think I'll work on the hair a little bit. And get that smoothed out a little bit more. So I'm actually going to switch to a smaller brush so I got a little bit more control. And I'm going to start smoothing out the hair. Now again, what this is doing is loosening up all the surface particles of the clay. So I want to be careful that I'm not over-hydrating, because then I'll just start losing details. It'll just start turning into a sludge. Maybe by the time I'm done with the hair, the face might be a little bit drier. In case you're curious, there are tools like what's it called? Completely blanking on it. Not a blow dryer, but a heater. You can heat the clay so that it dries a little bit more on the surface. See the difference? It's like smoothing it out, and then this side's like really rough. This is a little bit more put together. That's what we're looking for. And once I get these big shapes in there, I can go back in with a needle tool and add little details for like little strands of hair. Right now I'm just smoothing out those big curves. I am smoothing out that face, so I'm just kind of getting all those little, it's hard to see on the camera maybe, but there's like just a lot of tool marks, a lot of fingerprints. I'm smoothing it out so it's one piece of clay. And then for the wrinkles on the face, I'm actually over-hydrating it so they kind of blend together so that the lines aren't so exaggerated, but it looks more like one just wrinkled piece of clay. All right, trying to get it to look like old skin. Getting there, getting there. For those of you still on here, we're still looking for a title for this. Right now, the winner is a zombie named Sue. You can beat that. Let us know. Boom, get in there. I'm almost done for today. And the clay is drying pretty fast, so now I'm just getting ahead of schedule and working on some more finer details. Making a little button for a shirt. Looks pretty good for 2 hours of work, 2.5 hours. All right. So I think this is a good stopping point for me today. For those of you that are still on, thank you for sticking it out with me. We have a couple people with us. Thank you. We will be doing this all week here at CreatiVets. I'll keep working on this for the next couple of days. My next steps, I'm going to let this sit out for the rest of the day, just uncovered so that I can start drying. All that water that I added to the surface of the face, the hair, and the shirt, I want that to kind of soak in, and then kind of everything just kind of harmonize. I might work on it a little bit more later tonight. Most likely not. I'll just wrap it to save it for tomorrow. Tomorrow will be just like more detailing, getting all those like little tiny fine-tuned details in the hair, the face, the shirt. Start adding on some buttons and some more collar details. Just kind of fine-tuning it, and then after that I might be able to hollow. Tomorrow might be a short one. I might pull up something else to do in addition to the clay making. So if you're interested in following the process of this clay, please tune in tomorrow. Share this with some people. Tell about it. We'll post some things on social media so you can share it. Again, we just kind of want some resources to be available to those of us that are in the same boat with the coronavirus going around. We want to have some options. Tune in tonight, 4 o'clock, so an hour and a half from now. We will be doing some live guitar lessons with Tim. Tune in. You got a guitar. If you don't have a guitar, you just want to hang out, find something to do, feel free. Come on, stream on whatever your platform you're on right now. Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. I think we have a couple more. But yeah, this is great. Thank you so much, and I will see you all tomorrow.